Household budgets coming under more pressure with DBS, the latest bank to raise mortgage rates. And drumming up excitement for the big day, it's actor Adrian Pang's very first NDP.
I think of all the roles that I've played in my 30 years, this is possibly the most challenging.
This is The Big Story with me, Olivia Quay. Remember to subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss an episode. Mortgage costs are going up for thousands of homeowners in Singapore, and some could be in for a shock after years of low interest rates. DBS, the latest bank to raise rates on all its home loan packages, according to checks by the Straits Times. The bank's 2-year fixed rate package is now 0.3 percentage points higher at 2.75% per annum, while its 3-year fixed rate package is 0.15 points higher at 2.75% per annum as well. The bank has also pulled its 5-year fixed rate package for HDB homeowners off the market that used to offer loans at 2.05%. Well, DBS's move comes after UOB and OCBC raised the rates on their home loan packages last week following an interest rate hike by the US Federal Reserve earlier this month. Invest editor Tan Ooi Boon joins us with tips on dealing with rising rates. So with mortgage costs increasing, Ooi Boon, what can homeowners do with their existing home loans?
First of all, Ollie, my advice to all homeowners is this: don't panic. The new rates do not apply to you if you own an HDB flat and are on a HDB loan. Even with the ups and downs in recent times, the HDB loan has remained constant at 2.6% or 0.1% higher than the CPF interest rate. So give yourself a pat on the back for choosing this loan when you first bought your HDB. It is now one of the lowest fixed rate now. If you have recently taken up a new loan or have refinanced, that lower rate will still be applicable for a couple of years until the contract period runs out. So you also won't need to pay more for the next 1 or 2 years. Even if the rate hits you, it's not all doom and gloom. Let's do a quick sum. Assuming that even if you have a sizable loan of $800,000 for 30 years, at 2%, your monthly repayment is about $2,900. Even if it jumps to 3%, it becomes $3,400 or $500 more every month. It won't cause a major upset, just that you may have to watch your expenses a bit.
Well, thanks for those scenarios, Ooi Boon. I'm on an HDB loan, so I'm just giving myself a pat on the back, like you said. Let's give you another scenario. Let's say I'm a new home buyer. What are my options when interest rates are rising?
If you are buying HDB, like I said, stick with the HDB loan, which has become attractive now. If you are going to the bank, ask the bank officer to work out the repayment schedule for both the floating rate and the fixed rate so that you can better judge which is better. Every bank has its own way of pricing the floating rate. It is still cheaper now, but there is always a risk of upside later on. What you need to do is to ask all the questions until you are completely satisfied. Ask them what happens if it goes up and what are the factors that will cause it to go up. Just remember that there's no such thing as a stupid question when it comes to your hard-earned money. So don't be shy. Finally, before you leave, ask them what is their rule when it comes to loan redemption. You need to ask this because some banks may charge a penalty if you make lump sum payments during the contract period.
Well, Ooi Boon, with inflation increasing and the cost of living also going up, how should we manage our finances and not get into a situation where we're spending more than we're earning?
Days like now shows us that it is absolutely vital for us to have a personal reserve so that our world does not become upside down the moment prices start to rise. Yes, inflation is scary, but what is even worse is the unexpected expenses, your medical and dental bills, or when things start to break down and you require big sums of money to fix or replace them. So what this means is that it is vital for you to set aside more money and be more prudent with your expenses. You cannot increase your income overnight, but you can watch your spending immediately. So if you're feeling tight, you should think twice about spending more money on, say, an overseas holiday now. If you're worried about inflation, why pay more for an overpriced air ticket today? You can always wait for the off-season price and plan your holidays when fewer people are traveling.
Many thanks, as always, to our Invest editor, Tan Ooi Boon. Making her first comments on Singapore's proposed internet rules since her June 20th Facebook post, Communications and Information Minister Josephine Teo says the two upcoming sets of rules seek to safeguard a user's risk of exposure to egregious online content. And quote, "In our context, what we will be most concerned about will be content that relates to racial harmony and religious tolerance." Mrs. Teo had also earlier cited sexual harm and self-harm as other examples, and such content is not covered under other laws like POFMA and the Protection from Harassment Act. She was speaking to Singapore media during a working visit to the US, where she met with tech industry leaders in San Francisco. The Singapore government is consulting with social media platforms to develop these rules for managing harmful online content and improving online safety. A major step for Finland and Sweden towards NATO membership after Turkey dropped its opposition to their bids. This all but ensures the military alliance's expansion on Russia's doorstep. Telling reporters at the start of the NATO summit in Madrid, Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says he wanted less NATO. Now President Putin is getting more NATO on his borders. So what he gets is the opposite of what he actually demanded. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung says the next COVID-19 wave has hit sooner than expected, but he doesn't think this wave would be worse than the one in February that was driven by the BA2 Omicron subvariant. Referring to remarks he first made on June the 2nd, Mr. Ong says, "I had earlier said that the next wave might take place around July or August, but it's now here a little earlier, at the end of June, possibly due to the June holidays." These comments were in Mandarin when he spoke to Lianhe Zaobao last night after the Chinese Development Assistance Council AGM. Well, Singapore reported 11,504 new COVID-19 cases yesterday, the highest daily count in more than 3 months. The vast majority of the local cases are still mild, with some 9,900 detected through ART. The other 740 or so were identified via PCR tests. Case numbers on Tuesdays tend to be higher compared with the rest of the week because they reflect the spike in infections after the weekend when more people are out and about. In other local news, this year's Primary 1 registration exercise is underway with the first phase starting today and ending at 4:30 p.m. tomorrow. This phase is reserved for children with older siblings already enrolled in the school, and all applicants under this phase are guaranteed places. Are you looking forward to this year's National Day Parade? Actor Adrian Pang will be making his debut as director of the show segment, which will have over 2,000 participants performing live at the floating platform. And playwright and author Ken Kwek will present a 15-minute film showing the resilience and solidarity that Singaporeans have displayed over the last 2 years. Here's more on what we can expect.
There are many parts to the whole show that I absolutely love, but there's one chapter that really gives me goosebumps, and that is chapter 2, which is called Lights in the Dark, and is basically a tribute and a dedication to our frontline workers of across the whole spectrum. And the song that is performed by Aisha Aziz, basically a song about reminding everyone that no matter what difficulty and hardship you may be going through in your personal life, you do not have to go through it alone. Reach out for someone and someone will come to lift you up.
Connections is a 15-minute short film split into 4 episodes. It's a multi-plot, multi-character narrative with a lot of people weaving in and out of each other's lives over a span of 2 years. This film is a portrait of Singaporean life. It shows a lot of Singaporeans, and I think you'll be able to see yourself in the film. Anyone who has lived in this country will see themselves in this film.
There was some talk through the months about me making some kind of a cameo, but I'll keep that as a surprise.
My name is Mikhail. I'm the chairman of the show committee for NDP 22. So I oversee the creative team that actually puts together the show. I also ensure that they get whatever support. So my favorite part of the show is the last chapter when our MOE school students come on stage and they fill the entire stage, and it's so meaningful. I think it signifies a lot about the promise of the country, participation by the youth, and just seeing the parade back at a very large scale.
The 5.7 things that I think are significant in this year's NDP 22 would be 1, celebration, 2, gratitude, 3, a pledge to do something positive, 4, community, 5, love, and 0.7 of getting drunk. But only 0.7, not the full whack, okay?
Well, it's always everything in moderation, right? Well, those are our top stories today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay, and I'll see you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.